Hello and good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks so much for being here with me and the one and only Jessica Young today. She is the president of Ferretto Young Care Management and a dementia care practitioner. Thanks so much for being here today, Jessica. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yes, of course. Thank you for spending this Friday morning with me. I'm so excited to chat with you and get to know you a little bit better. And we're going to go ahead and kick it right off with our lightning round, how we usually do. Wait, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to wish, again, a very, very happy National Family Caregiver Month to all of our family caregivers who are watching today. You are doing amazing, amazing work. And I think that you deserve to be celebrated each and every day, not just during the month of November.
True.
But now we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the lightning round. So my first question for you is, what is the best gift for a dementia caregiver?
A show of support.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Now tell me one activity that's going to work across all stages of dementia.
Music. That
Ooh.
is the magical one that kind of covers everything.
I love it. That's so cool. I really if I one day, if I do go into research, I think that is the area that I would definitely want to research because it's so fascinating to me how, I guess that's maybe the last place that's sort of impacted by dementia, and just seeing the way that folks light up around music is so, so incredible. And how can I remember songs from 2010, but I don't know what I ate yesterday? So fascinating.
But they've got plenty of documentaries out on all of that. So there's plenty out there to kind of look at and base off. But music definitely is a huge, huge help in the field.
Totally. I love it. I love it. My next one for you is, what is your favorite communication hack when memory starts to fail?
Smile. It's smile. People can read that no matter what, and it's comforting. So that's usually my go-to when words don't quite make it to be processed fully. Usually just that smile.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think TIPA Snow's positive approach to care, that's the number one thing that they kind of teach as well, is just be happy, be kind, because that is something that your energy can be felt no matter, who or what is going through the situation. Now, this is a fill in the blank one. I like these. So dementia caregiving isn't about blank, it's about blank.
So it would be not about being perfect, but more about flexibility.
I love it. And we're going to get more into that later on because I love that. And then, okay. Oh goodness. I have so many more, but I'm going to pick a couple. Tell me your most underrated tool in the dementia care toolbox.
I think, I have two. Simplicity. I think a lot of people think they get too far ahead of themselves when really scaling things back sometimes is really the easiest tool for yourself and for your loved one. And then I also think humor is a super important piece of this. In all of these years of talking to caregivers, humor is kind of what helps a lot. Absolutely. Being able to smile, it's okay. Just that piece of it.
Yeah, I love it. That's amazing. And tell me what you wish more doctors understood about family caregivers.
That sometimes that family doctor is the first contact in this, and you have a caregiver who is probably very stressed, very scared, in unknown territory, and it's terrifying. And so to give some words of encouragement, to maybe give a few extra minutes and not just check down the list of things that have to be done. And maybe even because, doctors know so many things, but they can't know every single resource that's out there. Maybe have something in the office that you can pass to them, even if it's just your local Department of Aging number, just something to give them how to start getting connected, right? How do you start getting connected to something, right? If that doctor, because they're doctors, they have to handle the medical stuff. So give them something to
social stuff, at least. Yeah, totally agree with that. I absolutely. But yeah, let's get into our questions. So the first one is, you've been in senior care for what, 15 years now?
almost 20.
Well, look at you. And so you've kind of been like laser focused on dementia for most of this time. What sort of drew you to this work?
I knew, and 20 years ago and to where we are now and to where we need to be with this is really, I knew it could be better, right? Like I knew in working with the senior population in the healthcare field and seeing all that was happening, it could be better, right? There could be better engagement. There could be better ways to communicate. It comes down to a lot of that. I always say everything's figure outable, right? Like that's kind of my saying. So in that case, I feel like everything is figure outable and trying to bring the person some purpose, some engagement. So that is what kind of was like, how do we keep drilling this down? How do we keep getting better at this? How do we, and things are coming leaps and bounds. I mean, we're seeing all this transition with AI stuff coming and all different sorts of games on tablets and all of these things that are coming. So it keeps getting better. But that is really, it was like, let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to provide great interaction and some support to caregivers and let them know, it's rough. I mean, and show them some support.
It's hard work. It is, it's hard work that no one really ever prepares you for, and no one can fully prepare you for either. Because at the end of the day, taking care of someone that you love is going to be hard, no matter if you're a doctor yourself or if you are an investment banker. It's going to be tough times. But you've done some really impressive work. You presented at Johns Hopkins Memory Clinic annual conference multiple times. So tell me about maybe what's the one thing that you wish every family understood about dementia before they start their caregiving journey.
And I think it's important to kind of establish that not everybody knows they're going to get in that caregiver role. I mean, that's really the hard part. Sometimes this isn't a choice sometimes. And sometimes people are kind of pushed, or out of complete necessity, they go into this caregiver role. So, if on the other side, those that know, hey, I know I'm going to help take care of my mom. I know this is, and to start preparing. So that would be start doing some homework ahead of time. What are some resources that are out there? Does mom just need some socialization to start? Just start digging around, doing a little bit of research, figuring out, maybe tapping into caregiver support groups, things of that nature. So those that kind of are anticipating that and getting prepared versus those that are kind of pushed into it or kind of they're walking in kind of blindly. So it really is, it's going to be giving them very little task list to get done. Okay, let's figure out who the doctor is. I mean, sometimes family members are put in such a place I don't know who my mom's doctor is. I don't know what meds my mom's on. But here she's living with me now. And so if you have the ability to prepare, great. If
Right.
you don't, it's okay.
Yeah.
Take your time, piece by piece, get organized at a slow pace that's not overwhelming.
Absolutely. Exactly. It's so important to not overwhelm yourself. I feel like that is something that's gonna inevitably end up happening at some point. So might as well try to protect yourself from it for as long as you can by just, like you said, exactly taking it one day at a time, even one step at a time, even if you just get one small thing done a day. And if you take some days off and don't necessarily get something done during those days, that's fine too. There's grieving that goes on when you're like transitioning from being a son or daughter or a spouse to becoming a caregiver.
Yeah.
And all of that is like completely natural and a normal part of the process. And again, I say this on almost every podcast, but there's almost 55 million other Americans out there that are in the same boat as a family caregiver. There's so many family caregivers out there, and it's just not talked about nearly enough. So you're not alone. There are so many other people that are going through the same things that you are.
And getting them connected, right? Like that's
Mm.
the thing. I mean, that's why these podcasts are so important. That's why there's
Mhm.
all these online caregiver groups. It's really important to be able to connect with people that are going through what you're going through.
Yes, 100%. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I know I was going to bring this back up, so I'm going to bring it back up now. But, the whole process over perfection thing, you kind of strongly believe that dementia caregiving is about the process, not perfection. So, why do you think it is that so many caregivers get stuck chasing perfection? And what does that kind of end up costing them?
I think because they think there is a perfect caregiver, right? I think that is, oh, I'm just going to do it all right, and I'll read a book and I'll be fine, and then there's a bad day.
Mm,
Okay,
mhm,
now it's okay. Maybe not. Maybe this is a struggle. Maybe I'm not such a good caregiver,
mm,
and then there might be a couple of good days and then a bad day.
mm.
So I think the important part is do the best, show up the best way you can,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You're not going to be, no one's perfect at anything. I
Mm,
mean, period. And then if you add into caregiver, the stress and all of the emotions and all of the things that go in with it,
mhm.
it really is important to understand there's no perfect, right?
Right.
So you'll make yourself more stressed. You'll make the person that you're providing care for more stressed in this. And really, it, let like that where we talk about simplicity and just kind of scaling back, and
Mhm.
you'll get there. And
Yeah,
there's no perfect.
kind of like what you were saying with, the whole like smiling thing. If the stress can be felt too. So a lot of the times I know you can't just say stop being stressed because that's, obviously we're going to have stress.
Of
Um,
course.
but what can you do to sort of like protect everybody from that? And, again, just understand that you're both going through this journey at the same time together and it's new to them too. And so scary like on both sides for both people. So yeah.
And that's, I think, too, where it really, I, and I say this a lot to the caregivers,
Yeah.
is that the person that you're providing care to
Uh-huh.
is changing without the ability to know they're changing,
Mhm.
or without being able to control that change.
Mm.
So you as a caregiver, you're going to have to change to go along with that,
Mm.
to be able to be flexible and kind of, because what works today might not work next month.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
what worked this morning might not work tonight. So
Right.
it really is, the person that you're providing care for is going through so much and can be very frustrated.
Mhm.
Maybe they know they're trying to say something, they want to say something, and
Right.
they can't, and they're frustrated. So that's where kind of this whole building of the toolbox thing that we'll get into about, having some music around, some old magazines, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that for
Mhm.
those very, very stressful situations
Yeah,
where
totally. And I know we're kind of like touching on this like as we go, but maybe like kind of like take a moment to speak directly to a family caregiver right now. And, you know, they come in feeling like they're failing, they're super stressed out and nothing is working well. What's kind of maybe that first thing that you tell them in that moment?
it's okay. You're not failing. You're not, you know what? Let's just get you some more support. Let's get you some more tools. Um, it's going to be okay. Thank you for reaching out
Mm.
because that's huge. I mean,
Asking for help is hard.
in a lot of things, and
Mm,
that is huge. By asking for help, people feel, well, I'm
mm,
not able to handle it, right? Well,
mm.
that's not the case at all.
Right.
So it really is, what you're saying is normal. This is
Mm,
very typical of a caregiver. Thank you that you recognize that you need help. Now let's figure out what that is. Is it whatever that next step is?
totally. Absolutely. I love that. I really, really do. And it's just at the end of the day, all of us just need to hear that we're okay and we're doing okay and it's going to be okay to some extent because we're humans are just by nature we're our own harshest critics, and sometimes it takes that outside perspective to kind of like get you out of that and be like, hey, look at all of the positive things that you are doing. So what that this one little thing happened,
Okay.
but Jessica, you're all about kind of like talking about building this toolbox to allow for that confidence to grow and be built. So, what are some of the must-have tools that every caregiver needs? No, of course, we got that smile that we should be carrying around, but are there a couple of other things that they should just like be carrying around with them?
So I think this is where the patient's flexibility and preparedness really come.
Mm,
Um, and I say preparedness not as in, there's no way to prepare for everything that's coming, but there is ways to prepare. And I know I will probably get into a little sundowning conversations and things, but how do you prepare? And maybe it's knowing how to shift the mood of a room,
mm,
where it is a smile and maybe it's dimming of lights.
mm.
Maybe it's putting an old record on in the other room so they can hear that. And
Yeah.
so being able to kind of bend and flex,
Mm,
kind of on the fly. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right? Oh, mom's getting a little, antsy right now, a little agitated. Let me go put her favorite music on and see what we can do. Um, and that's too where the activities come in handy.
mm.
And we'll talk about activities because you don't need to be a cruise ship director. I've heard that so many times over the years. What activities I'm not a cruise ship director. I don't do
Right.
activities. I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's simplify it. Let's scale it back
Uh-huh.
a little bit. So, but the patient's flexibility and definitely preparedness of being aware of your body language,
Mhm.
I mean, that's huge. That comes right off of you in those rooms,
Yeah.
that you walk into. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's the cruise ship director thing. I'm still laughing about that. Yeah, that's such a good point because a lot of the times it's doesn't have to be that complicated, you know? At the end of the day, the goals are the same and it can be just as simple as putting on that record that they loved from this era of their life that was like a beautiful one that they like that were just like joyous during that time. So like and yeah, that's such a good point about kind of knowing the patient and how well the patient sort of prepared for something like this. I think that's a good thing to kind of do. Just it doesn't matter if you're 25, 35, 55, or 65. Like it might be good to kind of have those goals of life, goals of
Mhm.
care, fun facts, tidbits, just anything to kind of help that process move along. And
That's kind of one of the pieces too. The more we get into talking about engagement and activities, a lot of it really stems from what I'll call detective work, right?
Mhm.
So tell me about that person. Tell me, what did they do for a living? What did they enjoy?
Mhm.
What didn't they enjoy? You know, sometimes people will say, well, my dad just worked. There was zero hobbies. He worked, work, work, work. Okay.
Mm.
What did he do?
Right.
Well, he was a fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we translate that to providing him some kind of stimulation now that feels useful?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so it really comes down to person
Mm.
for person. What I might want to do might not be fun to someone else. So that's where you really got to figure out. And not everyone's an extrovert. A lot of people are introverts. So maybe they don't want to do group activities, but maybe they're happy if you gave them a puzzle to
Mm.
do and sat down with them and just talked about some old school stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really, when we get into a little bit more of the engagement piece, that really is where the heart of it is figuring out the person and what's their purpose.
Yeah, totally. And don't you worry, I'm very excited about the engagement piece as well. And sorry, guys, that I keep coughing. I'm a little bit under the weather today, but I could not miss this podcast for the world because I've been excited for it all week long. But I'm wondering if I should switch gears yet, or if I should dig in a little bit deeper on this whole building the toolbox. Let's see. Okay, then maybe I'll ask this question this way. So, of course, we have the good old smile and just positive attitude tool in our box. But when the behaviors are changing and there's agitation, we've got sundowning, there's aggression, wandering, things like that. These are arguably the hardest moments. So do you have any further suggestions or tools or ideas for families when they're, just going through it and in the thick of it with something like this? Like it's 4 o'clock in the morning and your loved one is running around the house, like trying to get ready for work, and they're getting aggressive and agitated when you tell them that it's 4 o'clock in the morning and they need to go back to bed.
So this is kind of a lot of that mind shifting stuff on the caregiver side. Because in the moment, that person thinks it really is time to get up and get dressed for work. And there's a really good chance that saying you don't have work and it's 4 o'clock in the morning that's not going to work, because to them in that moment, it is, right? Like they have to get to work.
Yeah.
They were never late for work in their 55 years at a company. They're not going to be late today. So that's where some of that strategy building comes from. And, I think the office might be running a little bit behind today. They're fixing the plumbing in the building. Why don't we, sit back down and I'll check in just to kind of confirm. Yes, I hear you. I hear you that you want to go to work. I know you want to go to work. Telling them they can't isn't. So it really is, how do you comfort them, right? Like how can they be heard in that moment and be comforted and not. Now, might it work in that moment? Sure. Might 10 minutes later, I got to get to work. These are all things, but the more tuned in to being able to kind of flip some words and flip that body language in those moments helps. That's where where I mentioned the detective work and kind of knowing that person, because you might say, oh, the plumbing is down in the building or something. Here, can you help me fold this basket of towels while I go? So provide something else. Like, what is next? Because then you're starting, then you've shifted the plan, right? Of going to work, to, oh, wait, I do have to help with these towels. Or And the list of, when I say towels, I mean literally the list of things that you can, I mean, we usually give them out to our family members too. I mean, like super lists of all of these quick things where, you know, putting cups back in the cupboard. If they're clean
Yeah,
or dirty, like you can
right.
always redo it later.
Mhm.
You know, it really, it's giving them a purpose in that moment to get them away from that agitation.
100%, 100%. I always say this too, like at the end of the day, humans just want to be helpful, you know? That is something that, and taking and feeling, and the sensation of like feeling like that's being taken away from you, or that you are no longer helping, or even like, you know, maybe quote unquote, like just for lack of a better word, harming, um, that can probably lead to like a lot of agitation, even if you don't necessarily know that that's what's the process that's going on. And a lot of times here at CareIA, where our students kind of go into the homes to provide the services to the older adults, we frame it to the patient as this is, you're helping a future nurse, social worker, doctor, PA get that necessary experience that they need by spending this time with them. You are a mentor to these students, which is 100% the truth. But is that how it's phrased on our website? Not necessarily.
Right.
So it's really all about just like that perspective that you put it into. And it's not somebody like that's going to come in and be telling you what to do. It's somebody that's coming in to learn from you, coming in to, understand better like the fields that are available to them out there. And so I think that perspective shift, just like you were kind of mentioning, is so crucial. And
Mhm.
having a couple of like different like bullet points in your mind of like, okay, like how can I shift this, or like if
Yep.
this is happening, then like let me do this, and trial and error, like that's going to happen, and that's totally fine, as it will in any other aspect of your life too. But just being willing to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I messed that up. That was probably not the best way to go around that. Let me try this next time. I feel like is really important too. And again, we're not going for perfection here. We're just going for what works today. And if it worked today, hey, let me add that to the toolbox. Maybe it'll work tomorrow too.
And that's, there's where you hear, practice, the more you practice these things and the more you practice kind of watching the phrasing, but you'll kind of start to see these things transpire where maybe you're starting to get really good at that, right? But there's a morning where everyone has to get out of the house, right? We've all got to get to work, and mom's going to the senior center today. I got to drop her off. And it's like, hurry up. Come on, mom. We got to get going.
Right,
Well,
right. Yeah.
okay, that sounds bossy, right? And
Your
you
day.
don't mean to be like that.
Right.
So it's in those moments of you've just got to
Mhm.
mom, all your friends are waiting for you at the center. We don't want to be too late. It's almost that time. You just kind of help it. You're rephrasing it. You're saying the same thing, but
Yeah.
it's much more inviting to be invited somewhere than being told to be somewhere.
Right.
So
I
that
love that.
flipping.
Being invited somewhere versus being told to. I think that's actually really a helpful tip. Like that um allowing the decision to ultimately be theirs, even if you're kind of like planting the seed of the decision, I think is so great, in allowing folks to keep their autonomy and maintain that independence for as long as they can. All right, now I'm going to switch those gears into the engagement portion, because I'm really excited about this, and I think that there's really practical tips and tools that could probably be taken away from this for our caregivers. So, you are a huge proponent of saying that, all stages of cognitive impairment are important, and it's important to engage and maintain that engagement through all stages, whether it's mild cognitive impairment or, and Alzheimer's or something like that. Why does this matter? Even in late stage dementia, when someone seems like they're, quote unquote, not there.
So everyone's always there.
Right.
They're just there in a different
Love that.
way, right? And so those around that person have to just alter how the world interacts with them.
Mm.
And so this too takes some, especially at the earlier stages, when we talk about MCI, the mild cognitive
Uh-huh.
piece, there has to be a lot of attention, because you don't want to start with an activity engagement thing that is way too hard or way too easy. You really are, and that's where that detective work comes in, right? Of trying to figure out, what do they enjoy, kind of where are they? Because if you go one way or the other, if it's too frustrating or it's too easy, well, you're not going to get a good engagement. You're not going to get some good feedback with that. So you have more options in terms of engagement, because, even if you play a card game,
Yes.
and maybe the rules aren't always followed, it's okay. It's really more about the process and not the end result. If they're sitting and you're, sipping coffee and flipping cards and just playing whatever game rules you come up with in that moment,
DIY.
great. So it's all that social interaction. They're physically doing things with cards. There's just so much that goes with that. I mean, and the more a person is exposed to things, the more opportunities are available. I remember very specifically one lady I was working with. We sat down to do some flower arranging, and it was just a random activity, right? Like, it was just like, oh, okay. And later that day, the daughter had said, well, how did mom do? She did great.
Yeah.
She made these like beautiful flower arrangement. And the daughter was like, oh no, hon, I don't think you're talking about my mom. I think you, and I was like, no. We really did sit down and do these flowers together. It's just because she hadn't been exposed to it at home. So the exposure piece is good. Maybe she didn't want a flower arrange before, but this kind of piqued her interest at that point. So that it's things like that that really make it important. And
Totally.
As progression kind of happens, you just kind of got to keep scaling everything down. You're going to they make adjustments, you make adjustments. And even right down to where maybe you put on some music, you might see some foot tapping going on. You might see a hand move a little bit. All of that is important.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's the thing too. I do feel like even with something like this, like if flower arranging is not the answer, then it might be, going on a walk and collecting different colored leaves. It might be, like putting on like a really like engaging like chair yoga exercise on YouTube or something like that.
YouTube videos are huge, especially people who have had careers. A lot of the military folks, sometimes some do want to see pictures of the old helicopters and all sorts of that stuff. We've had a lot of folks that were in the medical field, and okay, here's just, we pulled some reports, just random, reports off the internet, and we're like, hey, can you just review these and tell us kind of what you're thinking on this? Or giving a school teacher some papers. Here, can you grade these or tell us what you think, how these third graders are doing, or things of that nature. It's all that is, yes, that's their purpose, right? Like, that's what they did. And so you're just bringing that joy back to them. I mean, is that medical report going anywhere? No. But you know what? In that moment,
It actually is going somewhere because it's proceeding to making your life a little. Hey,
Oh,
hi.
oh, hello.
Hello. Oh my goodness. It's not the 21st century if there isn't a technical glitch now, is it? For some reason, I was telling Jessica earlier, for those at home, we are having a mighty gloomy rainy day here in North Carolina. And I think that it might be interfering with some of the Wi-Fi, but my Wi-Fi just completely cut out. But I appreciate you for holding down the fort while I was gone. um, oh goodness, what we were
We
talking
were
about.
activities and how
Oh,
to, yeah,
totally,
drill it down to
100%.
them
Yeah,
specifically. Yep.
we it's so interesting because this patient we have that books care with us, he was a I believe like a blood specialist, and he worked until his like 70s, like very very much like loved his job, loved what he did. And it's so interesting how our brain works. But there's days that he can't recognize his grandchildren, but if you give him a lab report of a blood test, he will accurately describe that to you, lickety split.
Oh yeah, it's pretty remarkable how that happens.
Hey, Jessica, are you still there?
Yeah, you keep.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I know it's tough. And I do. Okay. Oh goodness. I don't know. I'm going to ask you one more question, and I know that there's some questions from our audience as well that I definitely want to get into. I knew this episode was going to be a little longer than expected, but that's all right. We're talking about important things here. Um, so let's do this one. Um, yeah, yeah. So a lot of the time we're continuing on that like same engagement energy and like vein. What what do you say to families, or what are you kind of hearing when someone says, "Dad just sits there. He doesn't want to do anything. I try to engage with him and he doesn't really even want to engage." How do you sort of redirect in those situations?
So that's where a lot of the questioning comes from, to try to, extract as much information to be able to think of things that dad may want to do.
Mhm.
Because what you think dad wants to do and what dad may actually want to do may be very, very different.
Mm,
So you hand him a crossword puzzle book and a pencil, and he's like, I'm not doing this. This is silly, and
mm,
sets it down. You don't want to do it. But in having conversations and maybe knowing some of the things that he did enjoy, maybe he enjoyed like old Westerns or something. Maybe there's some old picture books
mm,
around to kind of have these conversations about reminiscing and things of that nature.
right.
It really is being able to see
Mm,
kind of what would be of interest to him.
mhm, mhm.
Maybe he was a golfer, maybe he was really into sports, whatever that was. Trying to figure out what is that purpose, what is that interest, and then kind of drill it home. Because you think it's important doesn't mean dad does.
That's such a good point. That is such a good point. Trial and error. We just keep coming back to this. I should have renamed that podcast that. Next time. The follow-up episode that we record in a few months here, because I'm sure there's going to be so much more left to talk about. We will call it that. But I do want to give some time to our wonderful members in the audience and ask some of these questions to you as well. So let's start off with this one. We have, someone said, thank you for the insightful information. As a child of the sandwich generation, how could we support our parents whose parents are in the early stages of dementia or brain change?
Okay, so if I heard it right, so it's a person who's sandwiched in between taking care of their kids and their parents are starting to have some memory issues.
So it's the daughter of a sandwich generation caregiver who, I assume the situation is, they have younger siblings, so their parent is taking care of those younger siblings while also taking care of their grandparents. And so this person is asking, how can I support my parents in their caregiving journey for my grandparents / their parents?
So that sometimes is a conversation with the caregiver. So maybe it is a conversation. And you need to think about what is it that you would be able to support them with. Because your strengths and your time could be very different. And so maybe it's, hey, mom, I'll go pick up the groceries if you order them every Monday and bring them to the house. It can be something simple like that to, oh, do you need me to help take, I guess it sounds like grandma to a doctor's appointment? These kinds of things where it can just, maybe you just go and let mom go where she run an errand, get her hair done, and just maybe hang out with the grandparents and do some kind of engagement, maybe look at some old photo albums. But any little bit of show of support is huge to caregivers.
Absolutely, 100%. Again, just it's all about making sure that they don't feel alone in that journey. And, there's definitely still going to be times where you are going to feel alone, but just knowing that there is that support system behind you and that they are, they got your back at the end of the day. And someone's shoulder to lean on, I think is really, really important. So we have another question here that says, we touched on this a little bit, but maybe we could go into a little bit more detail as well. But memory loss sometimes feels like you're losing this person that you knew and grieving that relationship. So how do you help families grieve that loss while still finding connection with who their loved one is now and, the person that they're kind of like becoming?
So I'm going to say there's a couple answers to this because everyone's a little bit different. So yes, is there that grief that, where the relationship you had has now kind of converted to this type of relationship, and there's some of that grief. Some people do, they start, a therapist that specializes in that, or support groups to talk through that. So that is really where some of that can be processed as the caregiver. Now, the person you're giving care to is still that person, right? They're just different now.
Right.
And so your interactions are going to be different. As long as they're meaningful and you enjoy the time with them, as the caregiver need to be able to process that other stuff in whatever way, is available to you, whether it's, talking to various support groups, finding a therapist, any of that piece of it, because that, there is that huge emotional piece to it. But also drawing in those moments that you're sitting there with your loved one, and what can you do to create some new moments together.
Totally. I love that. That's really really great. What is the new moments aspect of it is something that's really really beautiful, I think. And how can you create new memories and like a new how can you adjust to this like change in dynamic and things like that. I love this one. This next question is kind of like a magic wand question. So if you had a magic wand and you could design the ideal support system for family caregivers caregivers of those who have dementia, and you have no constraints, again, you have this magic wand, what would it look like? And what's like the first thing that you would go ahead and implement maybe today?
So, I would love a magic wand. I will say that right off the top. I think that would be fabulous. I think no constraint, no anything, that there's so much information out there, right? Like there's just so much. There's all of these. I think it would be really good if there was a way to condense things to where, because, this podcast is great for certain people and other people might not connect to this. They might connect to a different type of setup. Some people like to read more of the medical side of dementia and others don't. So it really, almost like a clearinghouse, would be helpful in the fact like, this is what I'm looking for, and then being able to generate the support for that caregiver right then and there versus going here and going here and going here and going here. There's a lot out there.
Force hub is this kind of
yeah
thing.
Because as an aging life care manager, that's our role in a family. When they bring us in, we become that hub, right? So whatever they need, they just say, or actually we will say, this is what it looks like you need based on assessments and things of that nature, and connect them. Now, in an ideal world, everybody would be able to have access to this kind of information in one place. And like, I just feel like there's so much out there.
Right. I think that's, and it can be overwhelming, right? Like, if there's caregivers are already making so many decisions on a day-to-day basis. So making the decision of what resource should I look into now, or like what podcast should I listen? That's just another thing that's being added to their plate. And I know, of course, every situation is like different, but this is why I think technology can really come in handy and allow, like, if they're giving me some ideas, I'm gonna go talk to our tech team after this and see what we can do. But what if there was just like an AI that learned your situation and your current like family caregiving and like the health conditions that your loved one is going through and your priorities, and kind of created that resource hub for you of like, okay, I pulled from this podcast and this medical journal, and here's this resource that you can go talk to in your area, and these are a few support groups that I found that are like related to this, and this one's online and this one's in person and this one is asynchronous. So yeah, I think that would be really, really amazing and such a game changer too. Just helping, again, at the end of the day, one thing that's taken off is one less decision that you have to make of like, what do I look into now?
Decision fatigue is real. I mean, it's real. And you're not just a caregiver in habit. I mean, a lot of people, but then it's just more amplified when you're making decisions for multiple people. Yeah.
Totally. And I think that kind of like going back to that question about daughter of a sandwich generation caregiver, maybe like in those instances, instead of saying, what can I do? Saying, can I do this or can I do this? Can I go grocery shopping or can I go pick up little brother from like, school? And it's like that's just like, even like maybe that is like that slight phrasing difference can help. It's just two options instead of what can you do? Oh my gosh, here's a laundry list of 10 million different things that you could do right now.
Well, and honestly, that is one of the things too. So recently we as a team have been working on what we call the CEO book, the Caregiver's Easy Organizer. And it's just, I mean, things we put together. It's not, a published book or anything. It's just like and one of the things in there is list a few tasks that you could give out, right?
Mm,
Because everyone's, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And,
yep.
ah,
Send them
but
that. You pick whatever you want to do off of it.
yeah, like here are, medicines always get picked up on Monday, or, I need my grass cut every Tuesday, or whatever that is for you, having it marked, because in the moment you're already frazzled, you're running around. What can you do for me? I don't know right now.
Yes.
But people want to help.
Yeah.
And
It's good to have, it's definitely good to have those options for those. I love that. Having maybe on, a day where you're not as frazzled, sitting down and just being like, all right, what are the things that I'm going to need to get done this week? And this is how I'm going to delegate them if someone is offering to help. Or, again, don't hesitate to ask for help either, because at the end of the day, you're not alone. People are a lot more willing and open to helping than it can feel like in those moments where you're just like, everything is so much right now.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
are way past time, but there is one more interesting question in here that I want to try and ask. And that is because I like this one too, but because a lot of the times folks with dementia or Alzheimer's can lose their words too. We see aphasia come up often. So, what are like communication tweaks that can make the biggest difference when someone is struggling to find their words? Like, do you fill in the words for them? Do you just like, are you kind of just like patient with that? Or do you find new ways to communicate? What do you recommend to families in your professional role?
Um, Finishing is not, usually that's makes it a little bit more difficult.
Mm, yeah.
Sometimes it is just a matter of, okay, let's sit down, let's just wait this, and see if that the words come to that point.
Mhm.
Other times people may, again, everyone's so different, so this can't be like a blanketed thing, but sometimes
Right.
communication, maybe the ability to write or point to things can come in handy too. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at the communication piece,
Mhm.
because they're probably processing everything that's coming to them,
Oh,
but
yeah.
maybe not being able to, project out. So if
Yeah.
that is the case, there's different ways to look at all of the pieces to this.
Yeah. That's great. That's really, really wonderful. Just starting with the basics of, yeah, just like pointing and, there's so many apps out there now with iPads and stuff like that that help with that as well. And what I can do is I can try and come up with like a resource list and I can share it with the audience as well. And if you're open to sharing that list that you showed with us earlier of like the
Oh yeah.
I can send that over and I could share that with our audience too, and make sure that they have, so they can add that to their
It's
toolbox.
simplistic. It really is. Let's
And
draw this down to simplicity.
that's exactly what it is at the end of the day. How can we make this as simple as possible for some people who are going through a not so simple time right now? But Jessica, I can go on and on and on, and I've had such a wonderful time chatting with you and getting to know you better. Is there any last piece of, knowledge, tidbit, anything you'd like to leave our audience at home with?
I, Reach out, right? Like, make a connection. Even if you're not completely stressed, start something now. Don't wait till you're in the thick of it
Mm,
to find support. I would say that.
yeah, I
Reach
love
out.
just simply, it's as simple as that. Um, Take that step, and if we will be here to support you. And there's so many other people out there, millions of people out there like Jessica and I who would love to support you and your caregiving journey as well. But again, thank you to everybody for being here. Happy Friday. And, it's Thanksgiving season. So I do have to say again that I'm so grateful for each and every single family caregiver that's out there working day in and day out. And, you're strong, you're amazing, and caregivers really do make the world go around. So thanks for doing what you do. Have a great day, Jessica. It was lovely chatting with you.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you all.